Hello and welcome to Leading with Rakael. I'm Rakael Carr, a leadership strategist and a financial growth coach. Today we are going to talk about communication. Let's jump right into it. Communication is critical for any leader. And if you're not a good communicator, this is something that I think you should definitely work on. There are three types of basic communication: verbal, nonverbal, and written. You have to make sure what you're saying and what you're doing line up with each other, because communication is not just about what you say, but it's also about what you do. And what you do, if you're sending two different messages, sometimes people are quite confused. They don't know if to follow you by your actions or to follow you by what you said. Your communication should be clear and concise and direct. I suggest that you avoid being vague. Think of communication and you're ordering a package. And when you order a package, you don't say, hey, come to Johnson Street, and allow the mail carrier to just pick a house where they want to drop the package off. You are very specific and you say, I live at 5555 Johnson Street. The more specificity you have, the clearer the message is, and delivered in the manner that you would like it to be received. That also goes for your nonverbal communication. Oftentimes people read you and they're trying to determine, what are you really saying? What do you really want? If you show up and you say, hey, I want to be promoted, I want to have a raise, but every time you show up in a meeting, you have your arms folded, or you're not being engaging, or you're not really talking, or your eyes are up in the head, or you're preoccupied with other tasks when someone is speaking to you, that doesn't really send the same message that you're communicating. That you say, oh, I want to be promoted, or I want more responsibilities. Or you might say, I want to take on more responsibilities, I want to learn more. But as soon as you're given a task because you don't like that task, then you say, oh no, I don't want that. In those instances, there's a mismatch with the communication. There's a mismatch with what you're saying you want versus how you're responding and how you're acting. I can tell you that your nonverbal communication is just as important as all the rest of your communication, because people draw opinions about you based on your body language, how you respond, your facial expressions. If you know that's a weakness of yours, practice in the mirror, practice controlling your emotions, controlling your facial expressions, to make sure that you are delivering the narrative that you wish, to make sure you're communicating exactly the message that you desire, that is consistent with all the other things that you have requested. It's consistent with your journey. If you're very friendly in person, but your emails or your written communication doesn't have that same friendliness, doesn't come across, sometimes it's also sending a mixed message. So I like to just have a standard practice with my email communication, with my verbal communication, and with my nonverbal communication. If I'm having a bad day, I simply try not to engage and subject other people to how I'm feeling in that particular moment. I might take myself away, take time to get myself together, and I encourage you to do the same. If you're sending a message that you're open, you're positive, you're well connected, you want to advance, you want to move up, you want to make sure that that message is consistent. That means when you show up in meetings, you show up the same way. You are sending a message whether you're speaking or not speaking. So you have to be very careful about your communication and how you're communicating, how you show up in the workplace, how you show up with your staff. Sometimes it takes a little bit more effort. If you have miscommunication, you run the risk of having failures in many different areas. You might become disgruntled because someone else is getting an advancement and you're not getting it. Your messaging was inconsistent. When someone thinks of you, what would they think of? You are the author of your story. It requires discipline on your part to maintain a certain standard. It's not based on feeling, it's really based on discipline. People have biases. They hear you, but by the time what you're saying reaches their ears, they have all kinds of filters and distractions that may have filtered out some of those critical details. So it's always good to follow up with the person to make sure that they heard you correctly. Make sure that you never, ever, ever, ever respond when you are upset, because that's not who you truly are. You go in fight or flight mode when you're upset, so you're not thinking clearly, and you want to have clear thoughts. It's up to you to control yourself when you know you're not at your most optimal state. You don't want that to be the narrative about you. When you're emotionally charged, that means that you're not clearly thinking. So if you know you're not at your best, that is the time for you to take yourself away, Give yourself a time to cool down. Make sure that your thoughts are clear. You always want to have an objective view of whatever it is that you're tackling, whatever it is that you're communicating, and whomever it is that you're communicating with. One of the things that I always do is when I'm sending emails, I have a greeting and I always end with a salutation. They always can expect me to greet them, because if I saw them in person, I would say hello. I'm leaving them, I would say goodbye or talk to you soon. So you definitely want to make sure that you're still maintaining that relationship. So you have to first decide who you are, how you want to show up in the world, how you want to show up in the workplace, how you want to communicate. Establish that and then keep the standard. Thank you again for leading with Rakael. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and forward it to someone that you think might be in use of these tips.